Okay, so I want you all to know, and honestly, please do not leave this thing silent the whole time. I cannot talk into a void. It's just like not gonna work. So literally just come off of mute at any given point or use the hand raise feature and please drop into the chat. But like I kind of want to know what you guys think as far as storytelling. What do you perceive as the most difficult part about writing, like writing your story down, conceiving of your story. And again, this is for like filmmakers, songwriters, any kind of creative who's trying to figure out how to tell a story. Girl, I can't even actually see this chat feature.
Do you want me to read what's in the chat?
No, wait, I think if I press, maybe if I press team chat, is that a thing? No, it's not a thing. Okay, so how long is this? I've been 4 million foot. I found it. Okay,
Got
cool.
it.
Working on a family history project and want to share stories with the family. The middle is difficult. The end is difficult. Experiences and learn why and how they're meaningful to me and can be meaningful to others. Narrowing in the scope at the beginning, trying not to hold myself to the same, yes, real. Holding yourself to the same people standards as the people you read is real. The beginning, the middle. Okay, these are all good answers, but none of them are correct. The hardest part about telling a story is all of it, because I checked Reddit beforehand and everybody was like, the beginning, the middle, the end, the beginning, really it's the middle, really it's the end. And I find that people are intimidated by all parts of the process. And once you're finished with the beginning, then the middle is equally as intimidating, and so forth and so on with the end. And so that's why I have created this presentation called the narrative arc, Storytelling 101. All I ask for today is that you guys be extremely present. I know that there might be troubles knocking at your door. The world is going absolutely mad. I'm literally in the Middle East presently, and the last month of my life has been very interesting. But just for this hour and a half, let's just be present. Let's just be here. Especially and particularly, most importantly, because this presentation is not AI generated. None of it. In fact, it's not even spell checked. So if Nikki wrapped it, Nikki wrote it. Okay. If you see this and you're like, what does that mean? Even these are hand-drawn graphics. So I put my blood, sweat, and tears in this for my sister Journey. So I just ask that you guys be present. And when it comes time for breaking out, we'll have little checkpoints to ask questions, to give feedback at any given point, just like jump in. And I really want to hear what you guys' experiences with storytelling actually is. I really don't want to be like speaking in a vacuum. I will. I could yap all day, but I rather not. um, so what keeps us from writing? The thing I hear the most from my students is imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to be writing? Not knowing what to write. This is lesser so for people who have a natural inclination towards storytelling, but sometimes like just being like, what would people care about? I think I find this more so for the Substack girls out there, people who are just like, what do people care about? What should I be writing about? And then also waiting for permission to write. Waiting for permission to write, I think this one actually comes a lot with older students that I meet because oftentimes if you have parents that have passed away, if you've gone through life changes with your children, divorce, like you have so many stories trapped inside of you, and a lot of them are just waiting for permission to be like, I want to write about my family. How am I supposed to write about my family? I want to write about myself. Does anybody even care? I want to tell my story, especially with folks of color, with women, people with disabilities, people who face social injustice and hardship. It can be very difficult to give yourself permission to tell those stories because you don't want to just be one more statistic, one more, trauma porn, any of that. And so these are some of the blocks that I see often. I would love if you guys drop in the chat some of the things that keep you from writing. But we're gonna break all of those down today. Okay. Imposter syndrome. The way that I tell people to get over imposter syndrome, you're like, oh, I'm not Toni Morrison, I'm not Nikki Giovanni, I'm not Richard Wright, I'm not James Baldwin. Listen, even if you are the least important person, like if you are the person who's just like an NPC, right? You're not the main character, you don't go into a room and you're the middle of the room child. If you are just you, it is very important still to view yourself as a historical figure, as a person participating in history. Some people who, like people who died in 2019, for example, never witnessed COVID. People who died 7 months ago don't never saw Iran and America go at it in the way that they did, right? So you are real time witnessing history. You are going through local history, national history, um, geographical changes. Some of you have migrated. Some of you were born in the South and you live in a different city. Some of you were born in another country and you live in America or elsewhere. These things make for storytellers. Nobody else can tell those stories. And in 10 years from now, when you've long ago forgotten this time, people will be looking back and be like, oh, wait, what was it like going to college during COVID? I'm actually watching a show right now called Bloodhounds, K-drama. And it actually takes place during COVID. And it's really interesting because the characters are always wearing masks. It like drives the story. It's a story, it's a plot line driver. It only came out last year, but I'm like, oh wait, damn, like that's crazy that they built this story around COVID. And for us, that was a present reality. So you're thinking like, what's so special about me? Well, luckily, there doesn't have to be anything special about you. We look at people like a Malcolm X as a historical figure writing the autobiography of Malcolm X. In reality, he was just Malcolm Little turning into Malcolm X writing the story. He was just writing a diary. He becomes a historical figure in retrospect. Okay, so viewing yourself as like a historical figure, it can be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But actually think about it. Like right now, we are going through a time of the rise of far right fascism in the United States. This has global implications. You are real time watching that. It doesn't mean you have to know anything about what's going on, but your day to day is changing. The gas prices are going up and down. If you read some of my favorite writers, one of my favorite poets, June Jordan, she's constantly using headlines from the news as poetry titles. I don't know what she's talking about when she's like Iran-Contra and Reagan era and Nixon this. Like, I don't know firsthand, but she viewed herself as seeing those headlines and seeing it as important. So I tried to do the same. As far as not knowing what to write, by the end of this, you will find something to write about, I promise you. As far as waiting for permission to write, Journee will remember this. One thing I did, because the girls, when I have my workshop, it was eight girls from around the world, different ages. We had Australia, Singapore, Pakistan, Hawaii. We had everyone up in there. And they were like, I really want to write about my parents, but like, what if they read it? And so I brought my mom to the workshop one week. And I was like, Mom, how do you feel when I talk my shit about what we went through growing up? And she kind of gave them remote permission to write. So I don't know who I am to you. Hopefully by the end of this, we're all friends. But if you're waiting for permission to write, boom, you got it. Memory. This is the central most important element of storytelling. It doesn't matter what kind of story you tell. It doesn't matter if you're writing Sinners. It doesn't matter if you're writing Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. All storytelling starts with memory. So if you have any memories, good. But even if you're like, I don't want to go, I don't want to write from my memory. I'm a fantasy writer. That's fine too, because fantasy is a kind of memory. Ask me how. Slow me down at any point, by the way, and like stop me if you have any questions. All writing begins with remembering. If you're remembering something that did happen, that's a memory. If you're remembering something that didn't happen, that's a fantasy. If you're remembering something that you fear, that's a nightmare. If you're remembering something that you did and did not happen, that's a dream. If you remember something that's going to happen, that's a vision. Everybody writes from a perspective of memory because you're just writing about what you see. Does it mean it's in the actual material felt world? No, not necessarily. But even J.K. Rowling, who's building Harry Potter, like she's seeing these things in her mind. Everything that I've ever written about was something I was seeing. Oftentimes I write from dreams. Oftentimes I will write from other stories that people are telling me and they invoke something in me and I see that vision and I'm writing it. This is great because you don't really have to be whatever you conceive of as a writer. Throw that away completely. I don't care if it's like Zora Neale Hurston. I don't care if it is like your college professor, whoever you're thinking of as like that girl, that writer, throw that away. All you need to do is think of writing as witnessing. So if you can see it, you can write about it. Everything in between that and your like highest Nobel Prize literature laureates is just technical processes, and anybody can learn anything technically. That's because YouTube exists. Great. Yeah. All writing is a kind of memory. The beauty of all of this is that what is being written is already within you. All you require is time, process, and technical prowess to bring it forth. You're simply being asked to name what you see. We're going to do some exercises today that will take you through the process of naming what you see. I will technically go through it. I know sometimes these workshops end up just being sharing sessions where we all talk about our feelings and our fears, but y'all are going to write today. Rigor, rigor. Yes, that's what Dr. Bridget told me in the first grade. Rigor. No great writer or storyteller has to reach for things beyond themselves. Even in the buildings of worlds, they build the world they saw. The boundaries of that world are not in the setting, are not in this setting, as you're welcome to build new unseen worlds completely. The boundaries are within the characters, understanding what a person would and would not say or do, in the bind, on the brink, deep in love, and lost in ambivalence. The more the writer understands people, their psychology, cultures, and fraternal bonds, the better the story gets. Why is this important? So many of us are not paying attention to the people around us. And a lot of like the lack of in writing that I see, particularly right now with Substack culture, is that it's very self-indulgent. It's like my perspective, my perspective, my perspective. There's never like, you'll see like a 7 paragraph essay about a boy, right? But nothing is about actually who that guy is or where they met or where he's from. It's just how I see the world, how I see the world. So much of the flattening um of writing and literature in modern day is because it comes from a singular perspective in which you're the main character and everybody around you is kind of an avatar as a person. But if you write like that, then your writing is no different than ChatGPT because ChatGPT literally is a singular perspective computer that's generating thought from one like mind. So the best way to get out of this is to be with the people, watch the people around you, listen to how they talk, like listen to others, think about what others are saying and process from there. Like it's very like I hang on to every word that is being said when I'm around my grandmother, when I'm with my sister, when I'm with my mom, because I'm like, oh, this is revealing something about their interior world. This becomes the kind of I don't know. I'm from the South, the nitty gritty. This is the nitty gritty of the writing. If you don't pay attention to the people around you, to the things that are being said, and it doesn't necessarily even just have to be people you know, but the characters on the news, the kind of political world around you, listen to the way that people are speaking. This becomes the kind of granular beauty. So if you do have a favorite writer, and I would actually love to know who you guys as writers are, because I can't keep leaning on Miss Tony. Who's y'all's Beyonce? But yeah, whoever you guys is like top writers are, you will find that the granularity, the best part of their vision is really in their characters. So let me catch up. I just clicked on this chat all of a sudden. Octavia Butler, Queen. I was just reading her. I'm reading Zora Neale Hurston right now, actually. Not having a platform sometimes stops me from writing. I'm trying to become a Substack girly. Y'all, I am a Substack girl, and let me tell you, the readers are not the highest quality. Like it's overrated. It's an overrated platform. It's like a Pinterest for writers. I won't get into the politics of it. Anyway, okay, great. The goal. I want you guys over the course of the next hour to think of a memory. As the workshop goes on, note the specifics of the memory, and you will end the class by writing a letter to a witness in your memory. I want you to think of one memory. And when I say memory, I don't mean like, oh, this is what happened to me in the ninth grade. No, I mean like a day, like a day, a time, an hour, a really, really specific memory. I mean like the first time you got your hair relaxed, just that experience. Or like I remember when I was a middle school cheerleader, my little crush at the time, TJ, he scored an own goal on the basketball team for the first game of the season. Like he put the ball in our goal and everybody hated him. We lost the game. That kind of memory that's just so specific, like one snapshot. I want you to think of a memory. So if you already have one in mind, we're gonna hone it even more down. And I promise this is for a reason. I would love to hear about your, seventh grade trip to Lake Lanier, but we need to take it even so specific, like the day in the cabin at the lunch table, super, super specific. Okay. For my people who said that the hardest part about writing is the beginning. How do we begin? How do we begin a story? The best place to begin a story is in the middle. Who said that? Me, just now. How do we know that the best place to begin a story is in the middle? Because that's how you already tell stories. Let me give you a perfect example. My homegirl, 2 days ago, she called me and was like, "Are Geminis compatible with Libras?" I said, "Girl, I don't know. I do know they're not." But I said, "Girl, I don't know." And then she said, "Because this guy, I just want to be next to him. I just find myself like a magnet. I just want to be next to, mind you, this is my best friend. We talk every single day. In my mind, I'm thinking, what guy? What Gemini? Like this is not your current roster. This is not your rep. Where did you go? Who are you sticking to like a magnet?" She starts the story dead in the middle. And then of course, when she said, "Okay, well, let me start from the beginning. Let me bring it back," right? How many times have you gone to your homegirl, your mom, your friend, whatever, and you're just like, "Okay, today, this is the last straw. Me and my manager, we're finna go at it. She took me." It's like, we don't know what you're talking about. And you think, "Oh, that's not how you start a story." That's how you even start a story in a movie. How many times, any real quality movie, TV show you watch, you were always dropped into the middle of the story. And then sometimes at like episode 3, episode 4, they bring it back to the beginning to ground it in context of like, wait, how did all of this get started? Typically, you actually begin in a kind of action scene and they don't tell you who you're looking at. Yes, if you take like a Wes Anderson approach, you can be like, "Here, today we are in this story, and this is," but that's a very niche character arc. Typically, we are dropped in the middle, and then you actually gain affection for the characters by just watching them do whatever they're doing. You don't get context until there's some kind of emotional draw after watching characters, at which point they tell you who these people are. So if you're like, "Where do I begin? Where do I begin?" It's because you have a once upon a time mentality that I want to break today. Instead, start with whatever feels most urgent, which is the middle. Okay. Typically, you have a line, you have a thought, you have a snapshot, you have some kind of sensory feeling that you're like, "Damn, this is what moves me. I don't know how to begin, but this is the part that I really feel is important." Or you have a dream and you're like, "Damn, usually dreams, you're always starting in the middle. Never in a dream do you end up being like, I know where I'm at." You feel grounded. Start from wherever feels most urgent, that kind of gut feeling. If that makes sense, let me know. Um, okay,
You just killed that, by the way. I had to get off mute and let you know that that did so much for me personally. Thanks.
hold on, wait, let me put this on full so I can see who is talking to me right now. I do not know how to work Zoom, guys. I need to get a real job. This is crazy.
I think she's
Um,
off camera. That's Naomi, right?
Naomi, okay, great.
No,
Okay.
it's for
Oh no,
Joe,
that wasn't
actually.
me, but
Oh, sorry. Y'all
it
have similar voices.
Oh, we
it
do.
was um wait, just reading this chat. Let me stop. Guys, my sister's in the my sister is in here. Hey, Crystal. Okay, cool, great. So moving right along. So yes, start a story from the beginning. Writing begins in the same way. Move from what you know and build from there. You can always build context. You can always give more details. To tell you guys how real this is, I actually have a friend, my friend Jolade, who is a filmmaker and screenwriter working in the UK, and he's actually working on a story right now that is about a Nigerian boxer who immigrates to the UK in the 1950s, and he becomes a champion boxer. He's writing this show, and this show actually he's trying to sell it right now. And one thing he got as feedback in this residency is like, "Okay, like what you thought was your episode 1 is actually your episode 4." that happens so often. Like if you really go watch any Netflix, you'll start to see it. You will really start to see it. Like they drop you in the middle of the story and then they ground you and bring you back once you have emotional investment in the characters. So how do you choose what that middle story is? Cool. Glad you asked. The most interesting stories begin where coping mechanisms fail. I'm gonna get a little meta here. I went to Columbia. This is gonna get a little Ivy League. The most interesting stories are not like everything was wonderful and then things kind of went a little bit awry and then we kind of brought it back and got it together. No, the interesting stories happen when the coping mechanisms of the characters fail. I think the best example I can think of with this is The Dark Knight, right? You have this guy, he is a billionaire. Everybody's seen The Dark Knight. If you haven't, you need to come into the 21st century. The the idea of being a superhero or being a vigilante hero of saving everybody, this is like the kind of pull. And this guy, he's bought into this. Um he has like a simultaneous superiority complex but also an inferiority complex because he's an orphan. And all of this, all of his money, all of his gadgets, all of his toys, and the politics of the city, they begin to fail, like all of it working together because he has this equal opposite force in the Joker, but also just because the woman that he's been stringing along in a situationship for 10 plus years is deciding to marry the stable guy. So his coping mechanisms of like wealth, of his vigilante character, of his self narrative, they're starting to fail. And that's where the story begins. So thinking of this from a personal lens, I want you to think about whatever you were doing to keep a situation together. Think about it this way. Just really let me make it even break it even more down. When you're in a relationship, if y'all have ever been in a relationship and you are trying everything to keep a relationship together, but you know it's ending, and so you really start like coming up with new ways to cope. You're thinking like maybe we should get therapy. Okay, I'm doing my affirmations. Okay, now I'm like, putting gift baskets together. We're planning activities. That's where the story starts. You're thinking this is the ending. Oh no, baby, this is where the story starts because this is where meaning starts to be being made. Because the stakes are higher. This is where the stakes ramp up. That's where a story should actually start. How do you figure out what that, like, Bianca, what the hell does that mean? Literally, what the hell does that mean? I want you to think about a vignette. Vignette. A vignette is a brief, evocative description, account, or episode, a snapshot in time or memory upon which to fixate. Think of that scene you keep playing over and over in your mind. That's a vignette, but not just the scene you keep playing over and over in your mind. If you guys were like me, dramatic in middle school, I was listening to Avril Lavigne. I would be on the bus in middle school looking out the window, and that I was making pictures up in my mind of things that were going to happen. Was I going to end up with Omarion or whoever was the person? I was not a Chris Brown girl, so just write that down. Whoever was Pop Trey Songz, I was a Trey Songz girl. It's not much better. I was making up visions in my mind. Even those can be your vignette. Even the fictional memories that you're making can be a vignette, but you need to think about extremely specific snapshots of people that you're with, of a world that you're surrounded by. Sometimes I picture myself in war. Like, I mean, literally fighting on the front lines of war. I don't know why it's a vision that has followed me through the last 6 or 7 years of my life, but those kind of vignettes are where stories are built. That's where they begin. So I pray this makes sense, but I'm going to build it out so it'll end up making sense. What are vignettes? Oh, I'm so glad that I included this because I was about to get away from myself. Okay. So what is this? Is this too zoomed in? Journey, tell me if this is like too zoomed or if you guys can see it.
That's much better. Right there is
Okay,
good.
perfect. So what are vignettes? Historical events are vignettes. Tweets are vignettes. Some of my favorite places to start and begin writing from are actually tweets. I love to tweet out a thought. some of you guys are really sleeping on your own tweets because if you go back and look at the archive of your life, that was a specific time or instance that you thought was important enough to kind of snapshot. I oftentimes will go back through my Twitter, find thoughts that felt evocative, and then work those thoughts out through a story or through an essay. Gossip. Gossip is the most underrated form of a vignette. I think people don't understand like so much good storytelling starts from gossip and rumors. Actually, what makes life worth living, God forgive me, is gossip and rumors. We can build so many good stories just based on think about this. Think about if someone came to you and they said to you, "Oh yeah, you know that old lady up the street, those two kids are not her kids." What? You're like, wait, which old lady, which two kids? Like, which you get, you're dropped in the middle of that story based on that gossip, but there's a whole world surrounding that. And there's implications, and the stakes are suddenly high because the person you thought you knew is not the person that you thought you knew. Journal entries. These are vignettes from memory, photographs. Some people are more visual than other people. I would say my older sister, she's a more visual person. So like, I would also say if you ever listen to a Stevie Wonder song, a lot of his storytelling focuses on landscape. So like the trees, the sky, the moon, the stars, the rivers. Frank Ocean also writes like that. Some people are more ironically visual writers. And so it might be that you're looking at photographs or you look at colors, and that can be a vignette. I've seen people write incredible stories like just based on the color blue. Sandra Cisneros in Homegirls and Hand Grenades has a really beautiful short story just on the color blue. That's her vignette. Dreams. I can't say enough, don't sleep on your dreams. I write down all my dreams. I have dream diaries going back years. It's crazy. Fables, Bible stories, Quran stories, old wives' tales, all of these things can be vignettes from which you can fixate to begin a story. So, first
Hi,
checkpoint.
Bianca. This is Naomi. I have a quick question
Well,
because you
actually, we're
lost.
at the question part. So,
Oh,
this is a place for you to go ahead and yeah, say your question.
perfect. You lost me just a little bit. Are you saying that vignettes are like how we should start the story or a mechanic to tell the story? So, like, tell the story through landscape or through gossip or through dreams, or like
So,
starting the story there?
you should, when you're thinking of a story to tell, you should think of the story as vignettes. It can be one singular vignette or it can be a bunch of vignettes. For example, I don't know how much you all know about filmmaking or television writing, but a storyboard, if you've ever seen a storyboard or a comic, each shot in that storyboard is a vignette. So a story can exist in only one shot. You can have an entire storyboard in one, or like say if you had an hour length film, you would have 30, 40, 50 vignettes. So when I say I want you to think of a vignette, start thinking of the memory that you have.
So, like building
How
it out in scenes almost.
yeah, building it out in
Got it. That
scenes.
makes sense. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So these are just all examples of like how to grab those scenes, because I just don't want to get through the idea that everybody wants to talk about their actual memories. I want
Mm.
to use this as a project to expand the concept of memory because everybody is not comfortable. And actually, this is again going to be pretty meta, but not everybody conceives of their life in like memory. I actually don't. Weirdly, trauma survivors don't tend to be able to formulate clear memory. Like it's actually my childhood, I moved around so much. I don't actually remember most things. I rely on my family when they're like, "Do you remember this? Do you remember that?" I'm always like, "No, I actually don't remember. I don't remember anything." So how do we kind of make up the stories an origin point for them without that? We have kind of impulses, we have feelings, dreams, fables, old wives' tales, photographs, rumors, gossip, historical events, journal entries. These are the places I start when I can't actually remember. And I think this helps with the kind of imposter syndrome thing because a lot of the question that people ask themselves, particularly trauma survivors or people who are writing about the distant past, is am I a reliable narrator? This was incredibly important for me because I have two sisters who are both artists. We have very different perspectives about what happened on very critical days of our lives. And anybody that has siblings, you can tell, y'all could tell the same day three different ways. They're like, that fateful day, this is what happened. And you even have movies that are literally about multi perspectives of the same day because everybody tells it different. So they might have attached themselves to one word or one thought or one scene, and I was attaching myself to a whole different world that was going on. In order to self-validate those memories, I needed to not rely on, is this what actually happened? And more of like, what are these impulses and screenshots that I'm getting in my mind as I go back to rebuild that world so that I could tell the story and give myself that permission. I pray that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So hone in on the specificity of your memory. What was said? How did that day feel? Who was there? The more specific, the better. I just want you guys to Journee, let me know how we're doing on time at any given point.
I think we're doing good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna give you guys 3 minutes to just think on this memory and kind of just, maybe jot down some notes on specifically what happened, colors that you saw, just world build for a second. It doesn't have to be anything formal. It can be just blue, anger, frustration, concrete, whatever is clever. In the meantime, I don't know how people be teaching from Zoom. Like, what is this? Is there any other questions while we work through this next 2 minutes? I really hope that this is not too convoluted.
Hi, Naomi again. I have a lot of questions, so I can ask another one.
Ask as
Um,
many as you want.
One of the questions that I have, I really appreciate that you said like the most interesting stories begin where the coping mechanism fails. One of the issues that I have is not like the beginning, middle, or end, but the why. Like why this story is interesting or what insight you're trying to tell, other than this is a memory that feels fun or cool or interesting to me. And so how do you find that like this like I think not to keep bringing up Toni Morrison, but when she tells this story, like there's an insight or like a provocation that she's leading you to. And so how do you get from memory to provocation?
How do you get from memories to provocation? Here's the thing. It depends on how much you know about Miss Toni, because we were actually talking about her yesterday, Journey and I, and I find that she gets there through anger. Like, I think people actually have her writing is so all-encompassing and her world building is so good that you don't really do too much looking into like Miss Toni Morrison, like her tea. But Toni Morrison was a devout Catholic for most of her life. So a lot of her writing is underpinned by a kind of religious guilt that if you go and read Paradise or Home or some of these books, you find and also by a kind of penchant of loneliness that she faced that's very obvious in works like Sula, for example. So that provocation should come from whatever is being provoked in you. If pleasure and like levity and joy is provoking you, then that should be the place that you're writing from. I've written from anger more than a few times. And actually, I'm going to share some writing today. I have gone into my own archives and I'm going to share some writing today that you guys, oh perfect, that you guys can kind of look at. I think that this is an interesting question because it really just comes from validating your own feelings. I think that most of us are too invested in being or looking interesting. And in reality, you need to be invested in being honest. So rather than thinking like, how do I get to that provocation? You should be thinking like, what is provoking me to write? Because a lot of times, and Journee and I were just talking about this the other day, like we don't write when we're doing very well. When I met the late great Nikki Giovanni, she told me that like whenever she was in a bind, she would call Toni Morrison and she'd be like, Toni, I'm going through it. And they were talking not as Nikki Giovanni and Toni Morrison, they were talking as homegirls. And Toni Morrison, in response to whatever Nikki's plight was, would say to her, just write about it, Nikki. You need to just go write about it. You need to just go write about it. She wouldn't even soothe what she was directly dealing with. She would tell her, like, put it on the page, put it on the page. So knowing that that even was her emotional process to write from that place of frustration or scourge actually explains a lot of the things that emanated from her books, because she's not, you know, she's in the African American literary tradition considered a prophet, but she's not just seeing this thing in her mind and being like, let me go write Sula. No, like her homegirls is beefing. What? Let's just beef with her homegirls. Like, we have got to validate the everyday banality of our experiences, or we will never write about anything. If you don't think that the hairdresser is interesting, if you don't think that the barbershop is interesting, or the mailman, or if you don't think your little world in Tuscaloosa, you know, wherever you are, is interesting, then you're never going to have a story to tell. You've got to validate the story in your mind, your own emotions, to even have a place to start telling a story. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially with women, that we're not able to do. Sorry. I pray that makes sense.
No,
Sometimes it feels like I'm just saying what happened as opposed to saying poetically how I really feel. I feel like my writing is too straightforward or too flowery. Alice, what a wonderful transition into what I call the middle, the middle of the story. So I found God in the details. I've been looking for him there ever since. Who said that? I said that back in like 2016. How do we ground the middle of a story in details without being overly poetic or like leaning on mysterious, or without being too straightforward that it ends up being dead, dull, and cliche? The time for descriptive writing is in the middle of the story, and it is what drives the engine of the story along. Description should be followed by commentary to create a sense of reality. Anything that lacks commentary moves the story into poetics or a dreamlike state. If the story feels too airy or poetic, you have too much description and not enough commentary. Oh, actually, that's a little tidbit. I'm like ready to, oh, that's a bomb I'm just going to drop on you guys in a second. So let me reread Alice's question because it was really good. Kiana, thank you for coming. Okay. Sometimes my writing feels like I'm just saying what happened as opposed to saying poetically how I really feel. I feel like my writing is too straightforward or too flowery. Okay, great. So descriptions. How can I put this? I mean, when you guys say my writing is too flowery, my sister says this too about her writing. Like, I think what you need to do, and this is the most straightforward, this is like, I'm putting you on game. Like, this is something nobody's ever going to tell you in a writing class. Um, you need to kill the simile and the metaphor. You need to kill it. What's making your writing sound too flowery or too elementary is that you guys learn to write like, I flew as high as a bird, or I got as high as a kite, or um I ran as fast as a train. No, just kill it. Just say, instead of saying I'm high as a kite, right, I was a kite. That, like what I just told you guys will take your shit to like bestseller level. I'm not even kidding. I know it sounds crazy, but like that thing that Toni Morrison does, that thing that James Baldwin does, what they do is what I like to call, and Journee, you'll remember this from my workshop, I call it straight talk. I call it straight talk. Like Black people do this. It's actually in our language. It is like natural to the African American folklore tradition to just call something as it is, rather than saying it was like that thing. So these are my examples. She moved like a bullet. Instead, say, she was a bullet. My home was cold and chaotic as a butcher shop. My home was a butcher shop. He is like my peace on Sunday morning. He is my Sunday morning peace. I don't know why this came to me randomly in the middle of the night yesterday, but this one, like, when it's like I just like gave you an ingredient to like, and the thing is that whatever you're thinking of is too flowery, and you're just like, why does my shit just not hit? It's because you're going through this conduit of like and as that if you just go there, it actually becomes an identity. It becomes so like I'm like it's getting into church now. It's like we're working on a metaphysical level. So actually, one of you just jump off mic and give me a metaphor or a simile. Just give me one that is off your dome. I want to hear some.
You the birthday.
Okay, not that one.
You know, I think that's a good one in real time for real. Like, I know it's like funny, but I think that's a great
You know
example
what?
of Black
That actually
language.
is a really good example.
Yeah.
You the birthday. This is a meme that is currently going around. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Black people love this. Like we actually love this kind of language, and it hits better. It's something that actually if you read she was the birth, like if you heard a male character in a Toni Morrison book like Jazz tell a woman you the birthday, y'all would think that y'all would use that to write a 7-paragraph essay in college. You would be like, she was celebration, she was levity, she was beauty. That's what you have to do. Um, okay. So, right, dissolving the illusion of separation. You guys, you guys are getting it. I really was hoping that this would hit the way it is, but when I tell you, and maybe, if it makes sense to use a simile, then bring it back in. But I just know that this is one of those things I can give you in the short course of an hour that will change your writing. Because I think this is also gives you permission to be a writer. Like and as is you still trying to use the convention of your primary school teachers to be like, this is how you describe something. No, take those conventions off and you can turn into a rapper. Just call something something else, because we know what it means when a man says she's a brick house. Okay, like that is evocative. That's how we used to talk. We used to just say this is that. There's a really beautiful line in Their Eyes Were Watching God where the main character's best friend, she tells her like, oh, I'm not going to gossip about you. If you tell me a story, I'm not going to tell it to anybody else. Then the main character says to her, she's like, you're my best friend, so if you say it, it came from my mouth. And it's such a like weird thing to say, to be like, if you say it, it came from my mouth. That's a kind of sentence that asks for no permission. You immediately understand what it means, but it's actually a very weird way of saying that. I think you guys got to get a little wonky in your writing. Like your descriptions are not too flowery, too poetic. They're actually being bogged down because you guys do this thing that a lot of students do where they say, what's a good way of saying this? I want to kind of say this, but like, what's a good way of saying it? No, just say it. Just say it and like give yourself permission to say it. And if you need to explain it later, fine. Because the best writing, I think, the most poetic and beautiful writing that's been done is by David in the Psalms. He was writing down. And when he says, like, the Lord is my shepherd, or he says he meets me, by still waters, I lie on green pastures. The Lord is not meeting him. Okay, like he's not physically coming down to meet him, but he doesn't go and say, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say like he wasn't meeting me for real. He's like a shepherd. If David had said the Lord is like a shepherd, it would be a completely different sentence. He said, no, the Lord is my shepherd. Is the Lord his shepherd? No, that is a metaphor. That is a simile. But it takes the kind of authority, yes, Journey authority, and it writes with a kind of authority that I'm trying to get you guys to embody. That's the best way to do it. Cool. So where do we get commentary from? Historical fact, quotes, interior thoughts, questions. I put quotes twice. I love quotes. Bible verses and tension. So once you have your description, you should ground it in commentary. So once you say, she you the birthday, or she was the birthday, or something like that. You should then ground it once you're done with all of your flowery language, and then you should pull on something so that the reader knows what you're talking about. I do this in a few different ways. I don't want to get too specific on all the ways to do it. So maybe better would be like if you guys have any question about how to do commentary, but really all it is like, I hate like in high school literature, they tell you just do supporting sentences. Like once you make a statement, like support it with a fact. That's really what commentary is, but it doesn't have to be, it has to be only factual to you. So like interior thoughts are good types of commentary. I often use interior thoughts as my commentary. That's almost always like, so this is what happened, and now this is what I think about it. Let me see. So yeah, I think this is kind of straightforward. So checkpoint 2, think about that memory that you guys were starting to ground in context, and now think about the tensions that were underlying, what you realize about it now that you didn't know then. That is a good way of thinking about commentary. Oh, good, we're at the middle. I was like, oh my God, we're not going to get to the end. We actually are going to get to the end. Questions. I can use this little break for questions.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, great. You can hear me. What about when you were talking about how your sisters have different memories of a specific time in life? That's true for everyone. What about when you don't remember everything about a memory to build it? So you go and reach out to somebody else who was there and they say something that kind of shifts the memory a bit, how you remember it, but it is vital for building the memory, if that makes sense. Sorry, I don't know how to word this.
That's where authorship comes in. That's what authority comes in. You can take it or leave it. You have to decide in your life in general who's a reliable narrator. I can't listen to my dad tell a story. He be lying about everything. Like he takes everything and reworks it into a modern day context in which he's a much more developed person, and I cannot stand it. So I will take, yes, okay, Jonathan, that was the day, that was the time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right. That was in that city and not the city I thought it was. But everything else, I'm gonna leave it at the door. Okay. And then if I need to fill something in, I'll make it up. I'll make it up with what is reasonably just to me. Memoirs are made up. I want you all to know that. When I was at Columbia, I majored in international human rights, and my thesis was on the Rwandan genocide. And we had to read a bunch of memoirs and a bunch of like accounts of the Rwandan genocide, which actually just had its anniversary in this past week. And the thing about these things is that they weren't really asking what happened, because honestly, some of it was so gruesome, so traumatic. People were children, they don't remember. What they were trying to do was create a cohesive narrative to then create a national history so that then they can put it in the past. So when you're thinking like, I can't remember. Yes, you should collect different perspectives if what you're going for is accuracy and you're trying to find color, but you should really understand that every memoir literally means memory, it's made up, and that there is a kind of relationship not between you and the other subjects of the memory, but you and the reader that is very sacred. And so as long as it does not distort something in order to lead the reader astray, at which point you're writing white male history, then you're good. If it is, you need to embellish, if you need to change, if you need to do things in order to illuminate, that is the work that ancestors do when they tell stories. That is folklore. Like not when they're doing the story of Brer Rabbit, when they're doing these stories are for illumination, not obfuscation. When old white men write stories, they're trying to obfuscate, they're trying to hide, they're trying to distort, they're trying to conquer. My goal, as far as like whatever I can teach you, I know that if I do something, illuminate something, I am trying to do it to bring light to the subject. So give yourself permission, honestly, to make it up. If you hear something and it doesn't sit right with you, you're like, I don't think it happened like that. It's tension, but that's what authorship is, because authorship literally is authority. And that brings me to the last part, the end. So many people are like, I'm bad at endings. I'm bad at endings. I'm bad at endings. I would really like to change what you all believe endings are. Okay? Endings are useless. What is actually useful is an invitation into an imagined future or an alternate way of living. Even a question is more useful than an ending, as it invites readers or a viewer into a kind of lifelong journey with your work, one that they will return back to at a different moment of their lives. This is the final line of Sula. It shook me when I was 17. It shakes me today at 29. It was a fine cry, loud and long, but it had no bottom and it had no top, just circles and circles of sorrow. What does that even mean, Tony? Like, it was confusing the whole time, and then it's confusing in the last sentence. Endings do not have to be resolution. Endings do not have to be resolution. Endings do not have to be resolution. So many of you all have not resolved the thing that you want to write most about, and so you won't give yourself permission to write about it. So many of you all have not resolved the issue that you want to write about. You're waiting for your parents to die to be able to write about your childhood. You're waiting for the guy to come back who ghosted you to figure out what it all meant. You don't need resolution to end a story. You just need imagination. These are endings. These are endings. I love to end. I love to end on the question of who will take responsibility. I actually think this is the central theme throughout all of my writing. Is like, so who's gonna pay for this? Who's gonna pay for this? History happened. Something terrible happened to me. Something terrible happened to you. Who's about to take responsibility? Oftentimes the answer to that is me. That's what I'm saying. Forecasting. This is the world I think is going to be made as a result of what I was just talking about. Who will I love now? Resurrection is Black people love resurrection as an ending, okay? Because we love Jesus. Complete contradiction. This is an ending that I hate. K-dramas do it a lot. They're trying to do it for the second season. Like, I'm going to take everything you just saw and completely contradict it. I hate that, but you're allowed to do it. Clear call to action. Spike Lee loves this one. How many times have you been watching the end of a Spike Lee film and it'd be like, love one another? Yeah, okay. People really love calls to action. A vision for the future. Again, a kind of forecasting, but this is the new world I'm going to build from this world I just tore down. All of these are endings. So rather than just thinking of resolution, I want you to think of endings as possibility. I want to move pretty quickly through this and kind of show you guys how to fully develop all of this into like what I'm just going to call our short stories. So we're going to write a letter. We're going to write a letter because this is the best way I can think of to formulate stories based on memory. And this is the Memory Keepers Club. So the prompt of the letter is the memory that won't sit still. Start with a vivid fragment of a memory, no setup, just the moment, then zoom out to explain its significance, and then end with a question about why it still matters. You might be like, how is that a story? That's a letter. I love using letters to write essays. In fact, there's been more than a few essays that if you follow my Substack or even follow my New York Times writing, started with a letter. My notes app is full with letters to people. Why do I love letter writing? You're less likely to lie. Don't know what it is, but the second you put dear mama, dear whoever, you just want to like say things that are actually true and factual. Versus when it's dear diary, everything's gone to hell. It's all bad. Like, no, we need you to just write to somebody because it kind of takes the fictional, fantastical, floaty, airy thing out, and you are way better at straight talk when you're talking to someone. It defeats imposter syndrome because anyone could write a letter. It helps with stream of consciousness. And then it also resists endings that are a complete resolution because it anticipates a response. So just very quickly, if you guys will indulge me for the next 5 minutes, this is an actual letter I wrote to my actual ex in my notes app, and I'm going to show you guys how you turn it into a story. Dear ex, I've been on this bench too long, but it's not all bad. I'm already starting to forget you. I'm forging a path alone now, and inshallah, it's more honest than you were to me. I watch your life through a cold glass screen, but I resist it. I'm finally good at letting things fall apart, and it only took a year. And I rue that day sitting on that marble bench beside you. Anyway, you've made it easy now. Your cold indifference towards everyone and everything, and the lack of inspiration I found in the things you hold dearest, make it easy to sway me back to myself. I will harp on your tackiness to edge out my hurt. Remember that before I am a lover, I am a snob. The truth is, you're no good outside of the love you give. None of us are. None of us is so beautiful, so important, so brilliant, so impressive that to forsake love is a good or noble act. I'm finally glad you walked away. It takes so much time, an insane and taxing amount to realize we are on our knees and how much longer to grip the ledge to stand. But I'm coming off the bench. Finally, ex, I'm off my knees now. So this was the letter I wrote in my notes app to this person, trying to just go through mental therapy. How do you turn it into a story? Great. Took off the deer. I'd been on that bench too long, but it's not all bad. I'm already starting to forget him. I'm forging a path alone now, and inshallah, it's more honest than he was to me. I watch his life through a cold glass screen, yet resist it. I'm finally good at letting things fall apart, and it only took a year. And I rue that day, sitting on that marble bench beside him as the sound began to fade. He was moving his mouth, but nothing was said. I was already underwater, 6 feet deep into whatever lie had been told, and I couldn't seem to recover. What am I supposed to say? I came all this way on a prayer, a promise that did not seem to manifest despite my best wishes. I reach for the best tools I have in language. I feel in my hands an old worn Bible, something about the weapons not prospering, yet they do. I reach for Shakespeare, something, something, all is fair in love and war. What an easy thing to say, evil even. Anyway, he's made it easy now. His cold indifference towards every beating heart and the lack of inspiration I found in the things he held dear make it easy to sway me back to myself. I harp on his tackiness to edge out my hurt, remembering that before I am a lover, I am a snob. The truth is, we're no good outside of the love we give. None of us are. None of us is so beautiful, so important, so brilliant that to forsake love is a good or noble act. All the love standing between us was my own, so I'm glad he walked away. It takes so much time, an insane and taxing amount to realize we are on our knees and how much longer to grip the ledge to stand. But I'm coming off the bench, finally. I'm off my knees now. It's almost the same exact letter. Like there is one paragraph different, and the only paragraph of difference is a descriptive paragraph, which is me giving commentary on my feelings. So I kind of go through it, and you guys can take this deck, separately and kind of understand the difference. But I love letter writing. I could live, publish that to Substack. My Substack is on a positive note right now, guys. I'm on positivity. I'm on growth. Okay, so it's not going on my Substack. But there have been many times that I needed to write a letter to my mom, letters to my grandmother, and those ended up being the basis of essays that I wrote or stories that I told. So I want to use the memory that you guys thought of at the beginning, to think about cultivating your own short story. So think of the memory that you have. Go into the unsaid, what you were like, okay, this is what I couldn't say then. Think of the backstory, the meaning, and then a question or call to action. This is the exact formula that I want you to use. Of course, you can take liberties, would love for you to take liberties. But the memory, I remember that day, 2 to 3 sentences about the memory. Name the unsaid. What I didn't tell you was, whatever the revelation is that you have about it now, step back. It didn't start like this when I was younger or, in the past, whatever. Go back in the memory and then expand or zoom out. Return to the memory and analyze it. This is where your coping mechanism fails. I failed to cope with this, this, and this. So now I must do this, this, and this. Take action, make an invitation, or ask a question. I've decided to leave you. I must have you back. I want to be a different kind of woman. I know this might seem convoluted and strange, but I actually set a timer yesterday and I did my own in 15 minutes. So I actually know you guys can do yours in 10 to 15 minutes. When you it doesn't even have to be 2 to 3 sentences. You could just do one sentence, one sentence, one sentence. And then I would like you guys to try, for 1, 2, 3 of us to be able to read theirs out. I know that this is I'm like way over time. Journey, I told you to keep me on time, and girl, you didn't, but
You were in flow state and I wasn't going to interrupt that.
no, I told you to.
Yeah. Let's see if folks want to stay till 2:45. I would like to stay till 2:45, and I think that'd be an appropriate amount of time to do the letter and then have some share outs for folks. So, if you have to jump, you have to jump, but hopefully you can stay.
Cool. So take this 15. I'm gonna start the timer for 15 minutes so that we can do this. I'm gonna read the example that I did in 15 minutes yesterday, and I'm gonna be very brief about it, but you guys can use this as a kind of marker. So yesterday I kind of thought of a memory that me and my sister were talking about, and it was when I was in the 4th grade. My teacher accused me of plagiarism on an essay about the Iroquois Native Americans. And she said it was because the language I used was too advanced. And she was sending me to the principal's office. So I use that memory here. I tell her about how that started a whole lifetime of me feeling like I was being punished for being smart, how I tried to dim my light in order to have friends, have boyfriends, be okay with my parents, all type of things. The implications of that and how I'm finally trying to get free from it all this time later. That was my memory. 15 minutes, I go through this structure, was able to write it. So I think you guys should be able to do it. But if at any point you guys have any questions, or you're stuck or don't understand, if you're just like, can't do it today, don't have the bandwidth, cool. Be a listener, be a spectator. We need more of those in the world. So yeah, we can take the next 12 to 15 minutes and do this.
Bianca, can you scroll up a little bit to the slide right before
Yeah.
Ms. Williams? Mm-hmm.
I love this assignment because I get to read other people's mail.
Can you scroll up a little bit so I can see the bottom of like your picture blocks the text?
You could even zoom out a little more, Bianca. I think that might
I
help.
don't know what you're saying. Okay, let me see. Like that? Or
Yeah,
no?
and then shift it. Can you shift it to the right a little, or yeah, scroll up
Here?
a little more.
You know what I can do? Let me go to screen share. Now I see it. Okay, I'm just gonna take so off of this. Perfect.
How much time has passed?
Mm, it's been 7 minutes, so
Mm,
there's another.
okay, let's give it 3 more minutes to round out to 10.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, we'll come back then.
Yeah, wherever you're at is fine. I'm excited to hear these memories.
Okay. For the
You
sake
ready?
of time, yeah, let's come back, bring it back.
Okay. Journey, do you want to go?
No.
All right, thank you for coming.
I will
Oh,
I'll let somebody else go if they'd like.
someone's gonna have to go.
Okay, I'll go. Um,
Okay, yeah, we'll be here.
I'm a little nervous. I didn't finish, but okay. Um, dear me, you remember the day she died. You had just come back from surgery. You were late, very late. So late your agency called asking where you were. You tell them you're just waiting, and the other caregiver could leave, but you're there. You didn't know this then, but you later use this as a reason to draw more guilt as to why you weren't there sooner. Using the time not there, propelling the guilt of time with her alive being lessened by 15 minutes. And that's all I have so far.
Oh, you ate down. That
Wow.
is very good. Because now I'm like, first of all, I'm like, who died? And then I'm also like, now there's this agency. See, the dropping in the middle of the story is very good. I actually I was thinking yesterday, I was looking at this portrait and it was three people at a table and one seat was missing. And I was like, wow, that's an evocative story. I think this is a very strong beginning. If you want to give, I don't know if you want to talk about what inspired this or if there was a difficulty that you faced in kind of thinking about this memory. Like where are you at? How did it make you feel?
Ooh, girl. First, I want to say thank you so much. And thank you so much to Journey and all the work both of you guys put into this space. Um, uh, for me personally, I stopped writing a really, really long time ago. I joined today because I wanted to support my best friend and also know more about what she's doing with the club. So when I had read her little blip on Luma talking about bring a pen and paper, I said, huh?
Oh,
Um, writing is like a very triggering space for me, and you, Bianca, gave me the confidence to write for the first time. Not me getting emotional, but write for the first time in a really, really long time. A really long time. Um, this this story is about. I was a CNA. I work in community health now, but this is about my first patient dying, and I was there. It was just me and her, and I would get more into the story once I come back to it, but I played classical music for her and I was wiping her face. And she just let go. Um, and this is an experience that I want to talk about later on down the line, like maybe for a personal statement for medical school. But I think about this a lot every day, and I miss her a lot too. But um, yeah, that's kind of what this is about.
Okay, wow. And it's crazy because I would have the thing that I would have guessed it was is not what it is. And I was actually telling my older sister's best friend, Micah, is an OBGYN, and she has these stories about working in Alabama as a Black young OBGYN resident and how many child pregnancy she's like not teen but child pregnancy she sees and like the kind of things that come in that area. And when I tell you Black women in healthcare need to write more stories, I don't think people even understand the kind of service that you all are doing or the kind of I really, this is why I hate, and I can't get into politics of it, like when they separate STEM from humanities and that kind of weird binary, because I'm like, these are the stories people need to hear more of. There's not enough of them. So I'm very proud of you for writing today. And also, girl, it's good. If it needed some polishing, I was like, no, but I was on the edge of my seat. And when you're just like, I don't write, no, you need to keep writing. I leave my email at the end of the presentation. So, you guys can reach out to me at any, but girl, you should continue to write. And if you need someone to chit chat about writing with or want a writing partner, I'm so down because it's very, very good. I wanna give room for other people to share. We could probably do one or two more. But now I'm like, damn, y'all really came with some tea. Let me not call it tea. You all came with your testimonies. I know Journee's gonna she has her Jamaican auntie face on now. Mina, thank you for coming. I'm so, so glad. Thank you everybody who came. If anybody, yeah, needs to jump off, at 10, what time is it there? 1:30? It's 10:30 right here. Um,
I can go next.
okay, yes, Naomi, please.
Okay, so it's not done, but the day Caleb graduated was the best day we've ever had as a family. Weeks leading up to this day, there was something in the air. Mommy went and got everyone new clothes. Poppy would recount memories of our childhood. Every day, a new meal was had. I've never seen them open up our photo album so much. You could ask for anything, pizza for dinner, a new game for the Xbox, and the answer would be yes. Mommy and Poppy never graduated from college. Mommy tried when I was young, and I was a really sick kid. And during her exams, I caught a fever that spiked 103 and needed to be hospitalized a few days. She never went back. Their pride made me proud, and I wanted to have that same pride for myself. And while I was always going to go to college, when I saw how proud they were of Caleb and how it became them, how every conversation ended with Caleb, the first Merlane to have a degree, how suddenly Poppy working three jobs at once felt worth it, I knew in 4 years I would have that same moment for myself.
How'd you feel writing about this?
Um, I was just thinking about like how that literally became my reason why for probably everything I did after that. Like that single memory became like the driver for like the like after like me going to college and after like me constantly wanting to chase this one feeling.
And has that failed?
Um, my dad ended up dying before I graduated. So then it was just like I always wanted to chase this single feeling and that single moment that I never got to like experience. Not to say like they were proud of me, but like that moment of me watching how proud they were, like I wanted it and I would imagine it for myself. And then I never had that.
I love this because this is what I mean when I'm like, this story, this is the beginning that you've written that will be moved to the middle. You should, this story really starts because here's the thing about stories of pride, right? I'm listening to it and I'm like, okay, I'm buoyant, right? There's this abundance. There's this really clear sense of abundance. I love when people mention food. I love when people mention gifts. It's like one of my favorite things in writing when people just start listing things. I love this descriptive joy, but I want you to be present in it. And I'm like, right now, we're with you looking at a scene, right? I would love if it starts with your interior mind. And the bomb you drop when I ask you, and how did you feel about that? You tell me, well, this effort, it never was fully realized because of circumstances beyond your control. That's what I meant when I say right from where your coping mechanism fails. Does that make sense? It's like this was the thing you fixated on. This was the vision that you kept in your pocket. This was the thing that you needed to get from point A to point B. And at some point, it failed you, right? And it failed you because of things beyond your control. So, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do without that thing that you have? That's where the psalm is, like what I like to call it, where the psalm of the story is. That's where it really gets into like who you are as a person and the kind of interiority that we want to get to know. But you are a very strong descriptive writer. So I'm loving the details, and I know that like you can paint a scene, bring us into it through your heart by being like, this this is a scene that went from a dream to a fantasy because now it cannot be. And really the question of like, who are you going to be now without it? Or what will it become? Will it become a burden? Will it become like that thing that's in the distance that's never been? Or will it become the thing that you carry forward and fashion some kind of new dream? You can start the story from that breaking point. You don't have to. It's a perfectly good start, but it's an interesting place that's where Naomi is in it. I hope that makes sense. It's really good.
Thank you. I'm like a very like literal thinker. So you're saying this and I'm like, okay, then what? And let me know if this is the way that like I should be processing this. Then what's the memory that starts it? If this is
No,
like
that is
the
the memory that started. That is you have the memory. I don't think there's it's completely intact. I want you to think when you move to the middle, the commentary, when
Uh-huh.
you think about the stakes of it, you think about what you're actually able to do with that memory. Like
Mm-hmm.
what do you do with it? Like once when I said like a story starts where a coping mechanism fails, it's like you've been carrying this thing. It's like in Their Eyes Were Watching God. She dreams of this marriage. She's like, I want to love marriage. I want to love marriage. But then she's married off to this older man suddenly when she's like 17 by her grandma. And it
Mm-hmm.
literally says like her dream of a love marriage was dead. And so she became a woman. So I want you to think about like what you carried this dream. It led you from place to place. But what happens, and this is something we often have to fight with, like literally what happens when a dream can't come true,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's kind of what you're presenting us with this dream. We're on the edge of our seats and we're being like, great. So what happened on the day of your graduation? And now you're telling me, oh my God, actually, girl, I wasn't able to feel this in this way. So how did
Mm-hmm.
that make you? What does that dream mean to you now? Does it feel like bitterness? Does it feel like, okay, now this is something out of reach? Or do you think like I can still hold on to what was and it's helped me craft this new way of living?
So are you saying, okay, sorry, my brain could be literal, like continue to start with the memory, but in the beginning, express the bitterness, the regret before I go into the explanation?
I don't even know if you feel bitterness or regret.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you kind of, and it's not to say this is the convention of how you have to start it. I'm trying to say you can start it just like that, but
Mm-hmm.
where you where does the meaning come from when you're ending this kind of story, is what I'm
Got it.
saying.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
it like and they lived happily ever after? Because if it does become, if what you actually want to talk about, it comes to your intention, right? If what you actually want to talk about is how this dream, felt like a fiction, it felt like something cruel, it changed your relationship to God, it changed your
Mm-hmm.
relationship to people, whatever that is actually what the intention of the story is. That's what the intention of the story is. So
Got
you
it.
can
Okay.
start where it starts, or you can start it from that tension point, but you just have to be clear on like, what story am I actually telling? Am I
Mm-hmm.
telling the story of this graduation, or am I telling the story about what happens when dreams don't come true? For me,
Mm-hmm.
I think the one that has more stakes is the latter one.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
all,
yeah.
but I think that the strength that you have is in the world building. Your strength is world building.
Mm-hmm.
So lean on that strength because that's
Yeah.
what's interesting and beautiful, right? But where you find the stakes, because the thing is, this is why people hate me as a writing teacher. I don't want people to use world builders. They typically use the world that they build to hide as writers. They don't want to tell you about themselves. They don't want to tell you about their feelings. And so they build this whole beautiful, descriptive, Bridgerton-like world for you to live in. And then they don't want to come out and be like, but actually, I was devastated. So I want you to make sure, and I don't know this, I don't know if you're hiding in your stories. I haven't read, the fullness of your story. Maybe with an extra 15 minutes, you would be like, and then I was devastated. I just want to make sure that after you build this world, you inhabit it. You inhabit it as yourself. That makes sense?
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Okay. Journey, how are we looking? You round us out. Because I want
Um,
to have any more questions. If somebody wants to share, if someone wants to share, that we could just end with a good old story. I love a good story. Um,
I agree. I think the floor is open for a question or a story.
cool. Yeah. Question, commentary, stories.
Oh, my God.
Girl, not paying for it. Don't tell me that. I'm like,
No, I was actually, if there are no questions or stories, I hope that you all will bug Bianca about doing a workshop again in the future for herself, for the club, for anything, because I told y'all we would be in for a treat. And this was just so excellent. I'm so grateful for y'all's participation. Um, yeah, super duper fulfilling. Bianca, did you want to end with like how we can reach out to you, where we can contact you?
yeah.
The people want to pay you. That's what I'm really getting at. The
And
people.
then you know what? I almost put tips on my final slide, but I said
I
it's
said,
not.
why'd you take it off? I caught
I
it.
mean,
Anyways.
um, this handle, like my full first name, middle name, Bianca Vivion. This is my Gmail. This is my Instagram, TikTok, X. Like, what are they calling on Twitter? Like this is my everything. So if you have any, if you want to reach out to me, this is how you can find me. My email, it's the same. Bianca Vivion. Just don't spell it with an A. So it will bounce back. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. And this has been so fun. I've been like, damn, like I really, you know what? I really don't know how to do anything within an hour and a half. I really do need my full 8 weeks. But I'm really glad that this could be fruitful in any way. I hope you guys learned something about storytelling. I'm always also down to talk about my experiences. I know that some of you guys are at different places. Some of you guys are recording albums. Some of you guys are just a very different, there's a lot of really interesting and different people in this cohort. And I wish that we have more time so we could get into the projects that you guys are creating. But yeah, it's a blessing to be a blessing
Yeah.
and for attending. And I'm gonna be at the other workshops because I actually just recently decided that I really want to work seriously on a novel. And that's crazy and new. And yeah, Journey Caroline Smile is like, yeah,
I'm
I don't know.
putting links in the chat to Bianca's Instagram as well as the Memory Keeper's Instagram. And so the next workshop will be actually in person here in DC. It's 2 weeks from today at the West End Neighborhood Library. And Fatou Sow, who's a Howard grad as well as an adjunct professor, a genealogist, a writer herself, she's going to be talking about stewarding your family's story. And so I will do my best to make it virtual or hybrid since that has been requested. But if you're in the DMV area, that will be available 3 to 5 p.m. It's free. And then the last workshop will be, I don't know if Will is still in here, but Will is a technologist and a founder and just an all-around incredible, brilliant person. And he'll be teaching about storytelling and technology, and that'll be in May. So I'll follow up with everybody via email with more details and, like I said, a quick little survey for feedback. But thank you. I'm so happy.
Thank
I'm
you
so,
to
so happy.
Journey. Thank you to Journey.
Yeah, of
Hats off.
course.
Guys, it's extremely difficult to facilitate anything. period.
True.
And most people do not do it for less than a lot of money. And so I'm really grateful that you made this space. And yeah, guys, like I'll have a new podcast episode out tomorrow. So if you want
Perfect
to
timing.
watch my podcast, and thank you to fans of my podcast that are here, because that's very cute behavior to be listening to my podcast. So I guess that's it for us, right?
Yep, that's it. I'm going to stop recording and end out the call.